2023 has been utterly dominated by Max Verstappen, and the rest of the grid know they need to revolutionise their game to beat him in 2024. Some have pleaded with the FIA to make technical rule changes to help the competition, but they haven't been forthcoming, meaning drastic action is required. A number of teams on the grid have decided that this winter is the right time to scrap their cars, and instead try something completely different in their pursuit of Red Bull. With the new technical regulations coming for the 2026 season, the team's long-term planning is starting to focus on that. In Formula 1 terms, 2 years away is not that far, especially when the changes will include a brand new engine situated in a much smaller car with a completely overhauled aero profile. Almost nothing that the teams are doing for the current regulations will directly translate to 2026's car. Obviously, the knowledge will be helpful, but they won't be taking any wings or side pods they have sat around and strapping them to the new cars. What that means is that if anyone wants to go anywhere near Red Bull, now is the time to do it. In the cost cap era, teams are limited on the amount of money they can spend each year, and as we get towards the end of the 2024 season, everyone will want to be spending their money on the new regulations, not the current ones. If no one can get within touching distance of Red Bull early on in 2024, then the Max Verstappen show may continue until the end of the 2025 season. Not that the rest of the teams and drivers will just let that happen. They know that this winter is a pivotal moment, and if they want to work their way up the constructors' standings, this is the time to do it. With that in mind, many teams are completely overhauling their cars for next season, and today I'll give you the information on all of them, starting with Mercedes. The Brazilian Grand Prix was the lowest point of Mercedes' season so far. But then again, there is always a chance for a shock. They were awful in the sprint and even worse during the race, but what made it especially painful was that it followed two really promising results in Austin and Mexico City, with a new flaw. The German manufacturer had already been working hard on its 2024 car, as it was clear they didn't hit the targets with the W14. Asked if the Brazil form had dented confidence about its understanding of the current regulations, team principal Toto Wolff said, "No, I think more confirmed that the steps that we did are necessary. So at least we know it confirms that the trajectory of changing fundamentally is right. Last year, we came out of an Interlagos weekend where you're absolutely demolishing your competition Saturday and Sunday. And that was like, are we doing the right thing by continuing with the chassis that we have? Now it's pretty clear. This feels horrible for the whole team, and I wish we could start the new season and concentrate on the new car. If there was anything from the W14 that Mercedes thought was worth carrying over to the W15, Brazil confirmed to them that the car needed completely overhauling. Mercedes' main issue with the W14 and its predecessor the W13 is that they don't seem to fully understand what they're trying to fix. They struggle with something, think they fixed it, and instead just create another problem, or the problems re-emerge a few races later. Nonetheless, George Russell has taken that as a positive. We're not sitting here thinking why we're slow. We know why we're slow. We have so many issues with this car and have so many problems that we want to solve. So that gives us hope that if we do solve them, we can make a big step forward. So how do Mercedes plan to turn the W15 into a race winner? Well, they're going to be making some big changes to their processes. George Russell said that Mercedes' poor 2022, the extent of the issues on that year's W13, and the urgency to recover for 2023 caused some rushed decisions. We perhaps rushed a couple of decisions without thoroughly testing out the simulator, going through the potential consequences. And we were just trying so many different things. It was more quantity over quality testing last year. Whereas this year, we've really nailed down on the direction we want to go. We've thoroughly tested that process to kind of triple check this is the decision we're taking. There are a lot of moving parts in a large system, which Mercedes managed to have working in exactly the right way for many years during its run of title dominance. At some point over the last few years, those parts have fallen out of sync. To stop the rush decisions, which inevitably end up being wrong, from happening again, Mercedes are spending more time working together, especially across departments. The idea is that if there is input into decision-making from multiple departments, it will stop decisions being made by one department having a negative effect on the work being done by another. Lewis Hamilton recently spoke about being in a group chat with members from every department in the factory, so he can just check in to see how they're doing and offer his input on what they are doing. Will it have the effect they want? Will Hamilton be able to fight for that 8th title he so desperately wants? Only time will tell. Mercedes are far from the only big team that has suffered at the hands of Red Bull for the last 2 years. If anything, Ferrari probably feel the pain more acutely after coming so close to challenging them in 2022. Many people believe that actually they should have beaten Red Bull last season, considering how fast they were in the opening rounds of the new regulations. Red Bull just completely outdeveloped them as the season progressed, and despite being the only other team to win a race this season, they haven't been anywhere near Max Verstappen. Like Mercedes, they know that if they want any chance of winning their first title since 2008 in the next couple of years, they need to use this winter to make massive improvements to their car. With that in mind, Charles Leclerc has said that Ferrari's 2024 F1 car will be very different from their 2023 Challenger, and hopes recent learnings about the SF23's weaknesses will ensure next year's car is more successful. He said, "The 2024 project is very different to the car we have this year, and with everything we've learned so far, it reaffirms that it's a good choice, what we've done for next year. The more we learn, the better it is for doing the last few details for next year's car." At multiple races this year, Ferrari have bought upgrades that haven't made a huge difference to their overall performance in comparison with those around them. According to Leclerc, a lot of the changes they've been making to the car since the summer break have been in preparation for 2024's car. They've been making sure that their understanding of what they're doing in the factory is correctly matching up with what will happen on track next season. On top of the testing that they've done on the SF23, next year's car, which is codenamed 676, will take inspiration from their dominant rivals at Red Bull. A recent report from an Italian outlet with close links to the Ferrari team said that the 676 project will see solutions inspired by Red Bull's cars. There will be innovations and Ferrari's own choices as well though, not just a copy of what was introduced by Adrian Newey in the 2 years of the current regulations. The new floor that Ferrari brought in Austria confirmed to them the direction they needed to take their development. Then the upgrades in Japan gave them more confidence that they've made the right decisions for 2024. Ferrari have been focused on next season since very early on this season, when they realized that the gap to Red Bull was far too big to be closed with in-season development. It's clear at this point that whatever Red Bull is doing is the best way to go in the current regulations, so Ferrari's choice to do what Red Bull are doing, but with some extra innovation on top, is definitely the right one. It is a decision that McLaren made earlier this season to great effect. The team in Papaya completely missed their off-season goals in the lead-up to 2023. They only scored points 5 times in the opening 9 rounds of this season, with Lando Norris finishing in the top 10 3 times and Oscar Piastri managing that twice. After Canada, Lando was 11th and Oscar was 14th in the drivers' standings. As a team, they were 6th, and Alpine in 5th had almost triple their points. It was abysmal, and made Oscar Piastri's decision to ditch Alpine look very silly. The upgrades that were fitted to Norris's car in round 10 of the season at Spielberg completely changed things though, and since then, they've arguably been the best of the pack chasing Red Bull. They have almost triple Alpine's points in the Constructors' Championship now. The turnaround has been shocking. Despite their incredible turnaround though, McLaren know that there is still some way to go if they want to challenge Red Bull on a regular basis, not just pray that Lando can stay in DRS range for a few more laps. Team principal Andrea Stella stated in Brazil that McLaren's tyre management is one significant differentiator between them and the 2023 World Champions Red Bull. Stella highlighted Red Bull's masterful ability to handle tyre degradation race to race, emphasizing the significance of this aspect in any attempt to challenge them next year. While McLaren has begun focusing on the development of its 2024 design, Stella made it apparent that the progress required to narrow the gap extends far beyond aerodynamics, downforce and tyre management. He said, "We have some targets, let's say, but I can't say in which area and how. But what I can say is that it's not only aero." When further pressed about the contribution of aerodynamics alongside the tyre degradation issue, Stella acknowledged it to be an amalgamation of both aerodynamics and mechanical factors. "It's a combination of both, I can't say much more than that." McLaren and Red Bull are the only teams to be running a pull rod suspension at the front of the car. It is thought that the setup of the wishbones with a pull rod suspension at the front of the current cars has a huge impact on stability, which in turn has a huge impact on tyre wear. At the rear, Red Bull has a push rod, while McLaren is running a pull rod again. With the team targeting mechanical as well as aerodynamic changes, expect McLaren to turn up to 2024 with a shiny new push rod suspension at the back of their car. Andrea Stella is well aware that his fellow competitors at Ferrari and Mercedes are doing a big overhaul for the 2024 season as well. That aside, he firmly believes McLaren is well situated for a strong push during the winter, thanks to the competitive foundation they've built throughout the current season. He said, "In fairness, where you are with next year's car partly depends on where you are this year, because that's the starting point pretty much for everyone. With McLaren stamping their claim on best of the rest at the moment, he's right to be confident of his team's chances against the other historically strong F1 constructors. When asked if his team can challenge Max next season, Lando Norris replied, "Maybe. I've just been saying to Max, since we bought this upgrade to Austria, I've been the second highest scoring driver on the grid. I think we've been the second highest scoring team, potentially." Of course, it isn't just the top teams who need to try and close the gap to Red Bull. If anything, it's those further down in the Constructors' Championship who need to do the most work in the off-season. AlphaTauri have shown in recent races that adopting the Red Bull philosophy is the right way to go, and have looked far more competitive for it. Alfa Romeo will be following suit for the new year. The team won't be called Alfa Romeo next season, of course, as a transition to Audi in 2026 is beginning. They sit 9th in the Constructors' Championship at the moment, and it's only a good showing in Qatar that has lifted them above Haas, who sit 4 points behind them at the bottom of the Constructors' Championship. As part of an evaluation that the team has done at its Hinwil base, following the arrival of new technical director James Key, Alfa has decided that there is no point trying to eke further gains from its current design next year. Instead, the Swiss squad will embark on an all-new direction with its C44 that it hopes will address the weak points from this season. Alfa Romeo team principal Alessandro Aluni-Bravi said that James Key had been instrumental in helping the team lead towards doing something different for 2024. He started the first week of September, so he's also contributing to next year's car, to our C44 car, explained Aluni-Bravi. We reviewed completely the project together with him, and thanks to his experience, we went through an in-depth analysis of all the areas of the car taking decisions. So next year's car will not be an evolution of this year's car, because we think there are some limits in this concept that we cannot exploit further. So we will really have a completely new car from chassis to suspension, everything, all the areas. Identifying the problems is only half of the battle though. Fixing them is the real challenge. Alfa Romeo is still a small team and the factory is definitely not state-of-the-art. Until the funding from Audi starts coming in, they will struggle to make an impact at the top of the table. But hopefully with a new car, Valtteri Bottas and Zhou Guanyu can have some more memorable weekends in 2024. Their competitors in the race to avoid last place are also looking at a complete car overhaul. Haas have been really disappointing this season. In qualifying, they've shown flashes of pace that hints at a good car, but due to some absolutely horrific tyre wear issues, their race pace is terrible. The team will be retaining Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hülkenberg for next season, but the latter of the two has not got high hopes for 2024. The experienced German, who returned to Formula 1 this year to be arguably the stronger of the Haas duo, has been forthright in his own criticism of the team's 2023 progress. When asked what he and the team gained over the Interlagos weekend in the B-Car's third outing since its Austin debut, Hülkenberg admitted to Sky Deutschland, "Little to nothing. We get something from one lap, but on the second and third laps, nothing works anymore. The really old asphalt here really causes problems for our car. The aerodynamics completely disintegrates in some corners." Hülkenberg found the upgrade so bad that he actually went back to the A-spec Haas car for the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Team boss Gunther Steiner openly admits that Haas expected more from the B car, but 36-year-old Hülkenberg takes it a lot further than that. "It's not a clear step forward," he admits. "We understand that now, and we know it. It feels similar in some places, better in some places, worse in some places. So at the end of the day, it's balanced. But we actually needed a real step forward in performance, and unfortunately that didn't happen." Like Alfa Romeo, they will be completely overhauling their car from the chassis up for 2024, and Hülkenberg will be hoping that the team can get it right this time. Someone who needn't be as worried about his team getting things right in 2024 is Max Verstappen. His RB19 has been in a league of its own this year, but the team is still aiming to bring a brand new car to the track in 2024. Red Bull have hinted at design changes for their 2024 F1 car, believing it would be wrong to simply carry over their current concept. The team confirmed they'd already switched their development focus to 2024 in July due to their cost cap penalty, which reduced their aerodynamic testing allowance. But the runaway double F1 champions do not plan to roll over their current car design into next year, with the likes of McLaren and Mercedes emerging as more of a threat in recent races. "It would be wrong of us to just leave it alone because our opposition is getting a bit closer," Red Bull chief engineer Paul Monahan said. "But the rules are quite tight compared to what we've had in previous years and with previous generations of car, where we could do a little bit more and move things around. It perhaps wouldn't surprise you if I said it, speaking of the 2024 car, will be an evolution of the current car, as it will be a bit foolish to throw this concept away. But equally, we've got to make some progress. We've got to find some lap time. The opposition is on us, and if they do a step, then we'd better have a bigger step. Red Bull's development of the RB19 was restricted by the 10% reduction in wind tunnel and CFD time, imposed after the team were found to have breached the 2021 cost cap. With the penalty served, the team are able to develop the 2024 car at full capacity, and Monahan is convinced that the restrictions imposed on Red Bull for the winter of 2022-23 will benefit them in the long run, forcing the team to become more efficient with the research and development time at their disposal. It would be foolish to hope for Red Bull to make a mistake in the development of the 2024 car. The team has shown over the last 2 years that they have an exceptional understanding of the current regulations. If anything, the rest of the grid should be worried that Red Bull think there's still space for them to bring wide-reaching innovation to the RB20. With so many teams overhauling their cars for next season, are you hopeful for some competition at the front of the grid? Who do you think will make the biggest gains during the off-season? And who will be the biggest flop in 2024? Let me know your predictions in the comments down below, and if you want more F1 news and analysis like this, then make sure to subscribe to the channel. Until next time, drive safe and bye for now.